So tonight we're going to talk about the tantalizing Thaler. I'm good at alliteration. So to learn about Thalers, you really need to know about the history of Central Europe. But we're not going to learn about the history of Central Europe because that's a long topic. So this is really just to show you kind of what the area of Europe that we're talking about. So it's not just Germany, it's Poland, what used to be Prussia. All of this area used to be lots of different countries. Germany was divided into what was called German states before it was unified. So that box that's Germany used to be 10, 20, 30 different unique political entities. The Czech Republic, of course, has been different things. Austria controlled a lot of it. And like I say, the lines are different. This is closer to what it looks like today, but it gives you a general idea of the area that we're looking at. So the other thing you have to know about when you look at Thalers is an entity called the Holy Roman Empire. And the Holy Roman Empire was something that was created in 800 AD, and the church in Rome wanted a stable political environment across Europe where the church could spread and prosper. And the rulers in Europe wanted the endorsement of the Pope, because they all, on their coins it says they rule by the grace of God. So they made this alliance where the Pope would crown a person as Holy Roman Emperor, and it was kind of like the modern day European Union. So it was a union, a loose union of all the entities across Central Europe, and there would be one person who had the title of Holy Roman Emperor, which was somewhat a political leader over all of those entities. So the first Holy Roman Emperor was King Charlemagne. I don't know if he was a fairly well-known man. I don't know if anybody's heard of him. So this is a painting of the crowning of Charlemagne in 800 AD by Pope Leo III. So there's lots of books on the topic of the Holy Roman Empire. I bought one once. I think it was 800 pages. Attempted to read some of it, got a little bit out of it, but most of it kind of went over my head. So we're not going to really talk about that. Just understand that there is, that was an entity, and it's an important thing that comes up in a lot of the coins. And the empire was disbanded during the Napoleonic Wars because Napoleon fancied himself as Holy Roman Emperor and controlling all of Europe. So part of that disbanding was to prevent him from taking that title. So when we look at the Europe, or Central Europe, the Habsburg family had most of the people that were Holy Roman Emperors were from the Habsburg family, which were the rulers of Austria. This was their home, and this was their summer home, the Schönbrunn Palace. So if you go to Vienna today, you can visit the Hofburg Imperial Palace. I have not been there. I've been to Vienna, but did not go to this. So I would love to go back and visit these places. So when you think of Thalers and the Holy Roman Empire, the Habsburgs are going to feature prominently. So one of the famous Habsburg rulers was Maria Theresa. And she ruled from 1740 to 1780. And several of her daughters were married off to various rulers across Europe, the most famous of which is Marie Antoinette. So Marie is the French version of Maria. Maria Theresa, of course, all of her 16 children were named some variation of Marie, or Maria. So Marie Antoinette was married off to the King of France, or the soon-to-be King of France, and we all know how that ended. Maria Theresa has an interesting story because being a female ruler during that time would have been a problem. And her father was the ruler before her, of course, and he didn't have any sons and wanted the rules to be changed so that his daughter could become the ruler. So he had this accession document drawn up and got all the countries around him to agree to these accession rules so that his daughter could become ruler. Of course, as soon as he died and she became queen or archduchess or whatever they called them, all of these other countries decided, well, we're not going to abide by that anymore, and we're going to start taking away Austrian lands because we don't recognize her as a legitimate ruler. So there was a period of time after she came to power when there were several wars. The biggest was the the War of Austrian Succession. Maria Theresa turned out to be a quite effective ruler, was able to keep the lands all except for Silesia, which Prussia took, which she, from that day on, didn't like the King of Prussia because he took away Silesia from her. And Silesia was an area of Poland that was rich in mining resources, so that was an important place. But she turned out to be an effective ruler and implemented a lot of reforms to strengthen Austria. And her likeness continues to this day on restriked Thaler coins. So I'm sure many of you have seen Maria Theresa Thalers. I have one in my box. They were common, or they were struck during her rule, and she died in 1780, and they circulated outside of Austria quite a bit. So Austria continued to strike them, dated 1780, the day that she died, or the year that she died. And they continued to circulate outside of Austria and around Europe and through Africa. And restrikes are still found today. So they were, lasted a couple hundred years with the same date, 1780. So if you find a 1780 Maria Theresa Thaler, it may have been struck in 1780, but most likely it was struck sometime after that. So here's another interesting guy. He was a Habsburg as well, a couple generations back from Maria Theresa. This was Leopold I, and he, in the coin world, is known as Leo the Hogmouth because he had this protruding chin, and on the coins you can see that chin. And I always thought that maybe the engravers should have been more kind to him. But we'll see an example of a coin with him on it later. So what is a thaler? A thaler, if you can imagine, you look at the European Union today, they needed a common currency across all of these countries so that they could promote interstate commerce, and they created the euro. So the same thing, they've had the same problem back in the 1500s, and all of these German states had their different coins, Austria, all over the place. Everybody had different coins. If you wanted to do commerce, you had to trade, 10 of my XYZ coins for 9.5 of yours or whatever. So they came up with this idea of creating a standard-sized coin, which they called a thaler, and it had a certain standard amount of silver in it, so that all these countries could mint these coins, and it would make interstate commerce much simpler within the Holy Roman Empire. So this is Joachim's Tal, which I think Tal means valley. So, and Joachim is a name, so it means like Joachim's Valley. So this is where they started minting these coins, which is where the name Thaler comes from. And like I said, it's shortened from Joachim's Thaler. The first coin was minted here around 1520. And the reason why they did them here is there were several silver mines in the region which provided material. So you'll also find similar coins dating back to 1484, and those are usually added or collected in the Thaler series. So who produced thalers? We had Austria, Austrian church states. The church states I don't exactly understand, but there were, like Salzburg was a church state, and a couple others, and they minted their own coins within Austria and had their own rulers. Like I said, all of the German states, which there would have been dozens of them at any time, the Netherlands, Prussia, Hungary, some of the Italian states. Italy was broken into multiple states at the time, Switzerland, Poland, and also princes and wealthy families. So some of the wealthy families and nobles of the time were of such power that they actually minted their own coins. And I actually have a book over there that talks about those. So here's Leo the Hogmouth, and you can see that protruding chin. So this is a coin from 1704. Oh, another thing I put down here is that some Thaler coins were produced more as a medal, so they would produce them on the death of a ruler or maybe the marriage of somebody to celebrate that. And some of them, they were struck to the size and weight of a thaler, but they weren't necessarily intended for circulation, and they were also struck in multiples, so you'd have like a 1.5, 2, 3, 5, and even 10 Thaler coins. So a 10 Thaler coin would be a very large coin, but mostly struck for commemoration. If you find a 10 Thaler coin today, they're extremely expensive. So on the coins, you see a lot of interesting stuff. You see most of the inscriptions are in Latin. So you see on the front it says Leopoldus, DG, Rom, Imp, SE, AGHB, Rex. So they had to abbreviate a lot of stuff. So this means Leopold, DG stands for Die Gratia, which means by the grace of God. Rom, Imp, SE stands for Roman Emperor Semper August. August is a term that means regal or impressive, like what you think of a king being. Semper being always. So Rom Imp means Roman Emperor. The rest of this, I forget what all these means. I think the H is Hungary and Bohemia, and then Rex is king. So it's saying that I'm the big guy of everything and I'm king of all these places. On the back you see the date, 1704 across the top. This is Archid, which means Archduke. The Austrian rulers called themselves Archdukes, which was something you only see there. It was just kind of the name they like to use. AUST is Austria. Dux, I think, is Duke. BU, I believe, is Burgundy. Com, and I forget what that is. Tyre is Tyrol. So just, again, different areas that they control. And then you see the coat of arms there. And lots of little things, and all those things have meaning, and I'm not sure what they all are. But that's one of the cool things you can find is all of this stuff has meaning in there. So another type of Thaler here is called a city view Thaler. So some of them have pictures of a city view. Imagine that. I don't have any of these. This is one of the things that I'd like to get next because they have a lot of intricate details in the city, which is kind of cool. The next one, I love these. They're called wild man Thalers. And the wild man is a mythical creature. I like to tell people it's kind of like a Sasquatch, that there's mythology around these wild man. I don't know all of it. There's a lot of stuff about them, but they were popular on some of the coins on some of the German states. So you see him there. A lot of them show him with a tree that he's pulled up by the roots. So this one is from 1664 from a German state, and this one is actually written in German, where it says Alles mit Bedacht. Anno. On the back it said Herzog, which is king of Braunschweig und Lüneburg. So this one is another Thaler, which commemorates an event. There was a war in Central Europe called the 30 Years' War that was pretty devastating. It displaced, I believe, about 500,000 people that moved to different areas. This one was struck to commemorate the end of the war, and you see the 3 hands there ringing the bell to commemorate the end of the war. This one is from where's the date on there? 1643? Where is the date? I don't see it. There it is, 1643. Okay. You can also see, like on the right, where it says TAND. See how the D, they started to engrave it and then moved it a little down. So you see like the remnants of it. All of the dies for these were all handmade. And the E below it, the original E was way too low, and they re-engraved it. So you see a lot of that kind of stuff, a lot of unevenness in the coins and the engraving, which really gives it kind of an artistic handmade feel, which is one of the things I really like about them. So this one is from Brunswick, which is a German state. One of the things they had was horses on a lot of them. And it says Nec aspera terrent, which means they are not afraid of difficulties. The other side has, crests of whoever the ruler was and different people, the name of lots of stuff around there. I don't know that much about that part of it. Some of the books will have indexes of what the legends are, so you can read what they are. But there's a lot of interesting stuff there, if you're into that you can study. So this one is from a German state called Mansfeld and has the St. George slaying the dragon, which was a popular theme. You see that on some of the British, I think you see it on British sovereigns. But again, you see the handmadeness, like the DOM up there on the top left is just really crude. And then there are 7 flags on the other side that probably have some significance. And again, I don't know the importance of all of that. This one is from the church state of Salzburg in Austria. The ruler, see it says on the left it says Archbishop, which means Archbishop of Salisbury. IO is for John, or Johannes Ernst would be the name of him. This one is interesting because they're struck on a roller press. So instead of having 2 dies that come together and press the coin, you have a roller that has multiple dies on it, and they make a sheet of silver, and they feed it through this roller, and it goes through and presses the coin. The advantage to that is it takes less pressure because you're only pressing part of the coin at a time. And then after they do that, they cut them out of the strip. But this coin, when you look at it, you'll say it's bent. And yes, it is. It's curved. And that's from the roller press that presses it. And if you find one that's not curved, it's probably a counterfeit. All of the Salzburg ones have an image of Saint Rupert, which is their patron saint, on the back, and that's who that is. So this one's one from Bavaria. Saint Mary is the patron saint of Bavaria. These are pretty common. A lot of these, you'll find adjustment marks on them. So across that big flat area, you see a big scrape mark from when they adjusted them. So it's kind of hard to find ones that don't have those adjustment marks. And over on the left, you see the A down on the bottom. That, now they mention it, I didn't write that down, but it's either the mint master or which mint it was done in. So like I said, one of the things I really like about them is the handmadeness of it. So here you can see up in the left how the letters just look like somebody, freehanded all that. They didn't use letter punches at all to do this. So somebody took a die and, hand engraved all of that stuff into the steel. And you can see the A in Maximilian were the bottom of the A. They made a little mistake and went too low to start. So here is a 1780 Maria Theresa Thaler, which many of you have probably seen, which definitely was not struck in 1780. So why would you collect Thalers? There's a lot of interesting history, which I've kind of brushed over. I've learned little bits of it. This is an introduction, so I haven't gone really that deep, and most of us probably don't want to sit here for 3 hours learning about European history. They're relatively inexpensive. When you think about a US coin from the 1700s, it would be a lot of money. So you can find pretty nice Thalers, for well under $1,000, and some of them for a couple hundred or so. So for an old coin minted in the 1600s or 1700s, that's pretty cheap. There's a lot of interesting themes. Large coins are fun. As you know, here dollar coins are one of the most collected coins because they're large. So these are very large coins, which are pretty cool. There's a lot of variety of coins from several centuries. With U.S. coins, we look at something from 1799, we think, wow, that's really old. But what about a coin from 1550? That's 250 years before that. So they make U.S. coins look new. For references, there's different stuff. I have one of the 1600 version of this over here, the KM World Coin books. These books are all, several inches thick. So they have all of the coins minted. Each volume has all the coins for each century. So they do include Thalers as a big part of it, but also the minor coins and gold coins. So these are a good reference. They do have prices that are somewhat reasonable. I find that looking at prices, may give you an idea of kind of what to expect, but you can also look at some of the relative ones. So if you find one where the price says it's a $500 coin, you find another one that says it's a $5,000 coin, you can go, oh well, that's more of a rare coin. That one I should look for you may not pay 5,000, but it gives you kind of a relativity scale for kind of the different coins. The other thing is the Davenport books. John Davenport wrote these books in the 60s and 70s. He did extensive research on Thaler coins, visited museums and places all over Europe to create some pretty comprehensive books. There are some price guides that go along with them, but they're all prices from the 60s and 70s and not really useful today. Some of the things are useful because you can see kind of what some of the more rare coins are, or it gives you an idea of some of the rarities. The disadvantage is these books are no longer in print, and some of them are very difficult to find, and people want a lot of money for them. I have, over there on the table, I have 8 of them, and there's a few that I do not have. One of the ones I want is there's a 1484 to 1599, I believe, book. And I finally found one and got it and opened it up and like, where's the German ones? I looked, it's like, no, all the German ones are in a different book. So that book that I'm still looking for, I found copies of it for between $300 and $400, but I'm not willing to pay that much for them. So I'm still on the hunt for some of them. So these books are pretty extensive in listing all of the coins. Even when you look in the KM books back here, they will list the Davenport numbers. So you look at the coins, it'll usually say DAV and give you the Davenport number for that coin. So those are the references that are available. There's not a lot more, so you're kind of on your own. Since you're out of U.S. coins, there's so much more research for U.S. coins and the materials available for them that you don't have for world coins. But the Davenport books are pretty fun. So this was kind of an overview, a quick introduction. I'm sure you saw that I glossed over a lot of things there.